Neurodiversity-Informed online course design. Videos, text, slides, and assignments. When designing instructional videos, providing flexible settings and options is essential for accessibility and engagement. Students should be able to easily play, pause, and stop videos at their own pace. Including transcripts for audio resources supports different learning preferences and ensures content is accessible to all learners. If background music is used, it should always be lower than the narration, with an option to turn the music off entirely to reduce cognitive load and sensory distractions. Learners also benefit from the ability to resize the video screen to meet their visual needs. Clear, readable graphics and presentation slides are also critical. Finally, keeping videos short and segmented, around 5 to 7 minutes is recommended. However, consider whether a second Part 2 video is truly necessary, as it requires learners to transition to a new screen. If one longer video is more effective, that is also a good option, as long as users have the ability to pause it. Also, posting the video length next to the title allows students to decide whether they are ready to watch it before clicking to open it. This is especially important for videos that are not self-authored and cannot be divided into shorter clips, such as movies and documentaries. Providing this information supports attention, processing, and retention. Ensure that all videos have quality captions. Captions should be accurate, readable, synchronized, adjustable. Size can be adjusted as needed. Closed. Captions can be turned on and off, displayed with enough time for reading, positioned without obscuring visuals, and grammatically sound. When selecting fonts, use sans serif styles without decorative strokes. Fonts such as Calibri, Arial, and Verdana are accessible options. For these slides, I used Atkinson Hyperlegible, which was specifically designed to improve readability. Use a minimum of 12-point font size for printed materials, and ensure consistency in font style, size, and color throughout your text and slides. Finally, always check for sufficient contrast between font and background colors to ensure readability for all learners. An off-white background with dark gray font is a good default choice. When selecting fonts, use sans serif styles without decorative strokes. Fonts such as Calibri, Arial, and Verdana are accessible options. For these slides, I used Atkinson Hyperlegible, which was specifically designed to improve readability. Use a minimum of 12-point font size for printed materials, and ensure consistency in font style, size, and color throughout your text and slides. Finally, always check for sufficient contrast between font and background colors to ensure readability for all learners. An off-white background with dark gray font is a good default choice. Break ideas into clear, complete sentences to support comprehension. Leaving at least 1.5 line spacing between lines of text is generally recommended to improve readability and reduce visual strain. Note that too much space between lines of text can be hard to read too. Most of the time, I personally use 1.2 or 1.3 instead, as I find it easier to read. Avoid large, dense paragraphs. Instead, format content for clarity by using bullet points to highlight key ideas. Finally, align text to the left and avoid justified alignment, as uneven spacing between words can make reading more difficult for neurodivergent learners. Maintain consistent formatting throughout, and use clear and structured headings to guide learners through the content. For emphasis, use bold text rather than underlining, excessive color changes, or italics, which can reduce readability. Use camel case when appropriate for titles or headings. Camel case is a style in which each word within a phrase begins with a capital letter. Avoid using all caps, underlining, and italics, as these formats can be harder to read and may create unnecessary visual strain. In addition, all caps may be perceived as shouting in the online environment. Use active voice to make information more direct and easier to understand. When designing assignments, provide detailed and clear descriptions, including step-by-step instructions to reduce ambiguity. Include relevant background information, such as explanations of acronyms, key terms, definitions, and a glossary when appropriate, so students are not expected to guess unfamiliar language. Maintain consistent design, structure, and assignment settings throughout the course. To reduce cognitive load, for example, set all your course activities to close on Sundays at 11:55 p.m. Finally, communicate clear expectations by providing detailed rubrics. Rubrics help students understand how their work will be evaluated and support more equitable grading. Let's look at instructions for a group assignment, for example. Are students clear on the assignment's logistics and requirements? Do the instructions cover the following? How many students per group? How will groups be formed? Does the instructor assign students to groups? What are the presentation topics? Can groups choose or suggest topics? How are presentations scheduled? Is a slide deck required? If yes, how many slides? How long will each group have to present? Specific requirements, supporting handouts, citations, references, graphics, data, etc. Should students send the slides to the instructors for approval? How will the presentation be graded? When designing slides, maintain consistent formatting throughout your slides. Use a single, consistent background color to minimize distractions. Single-color backgrounds provide better contrast than patterns, pictures, or animation backgrounds. A light color background with dark font, as mentioned before, is a safe choice. Dark background with light font is also an acceptable option, but assess if the materials will need to be printed. Microsoft offers a variety of accessible templates. Limit bullet points to no more than 5 per slide and aim for 2 to 3 concise sentences to avoid cognitive overload. Carefully evaluate the need for animations and images, and use them intentionally to support learning, not decoration. Finally, arrange content in a clear visual flow, from top to bottom and left to right, to align with natural reading patterns and improve comprehension. Let's look at some examples of font and text choices contrasting the original design with a more inclusive design option. In the first example, the original font includes decorative strokes and stylistic elements. While it may appear visually appealing, those embellishments make the letter forms less distinct and harder to read. This increases cognitive effort and can create barriers for learners with visual processing challenges or dyslexia. In contrast, the inclusive design version uses the Atkinson hyperlegible font, which was intentionally designed to improve readability. Its clean structure, distinct letter forms, and spacing make the text easier to read. In the second example, readability is affected by multiple factors. The font style itself is difficult to read, the font size is too small, and underlining and italics are used for emphasis. Additionally, underlined text may be mistaken for a hyperlink, which can confuse learners in online environments where underlining typically signals clickable content. The inclusive version simplifies the font style, increases the size, and uses bold and enlarged text for emphasis. In the third and final example, the issue is color contrast. The ink color is too light against a light background, resulting in insufficient contrast. Low contrast makes reading more difficult for all users and can be especially challenging for individuals with low vision or when viewing content on mobile devices. In addition, including the entire URL to the author's biography overcrowds the slide and creates visual clutter. Long links can interrupt reading flow and make content appear dense. A cleaner approach would be to hyperlink descriptive text, as shown in the inclusive design example. Together, these examples illustrate that inclusive design is not just about aesthetics. It's about making intentional choices that support readability, reduce cognitive load, and create equitable access.